Alright guys, hi again, welcome back. So now we're on episode 4. It's complicated of Tyler Perry's series caught up. So after she gets home or whatnot, Jazz, he's constantly texting her like, read the card, read the card, read the card. So she goes on about her day or whatever. Um Toya ends up calling her again, and she was like, "So what happened?" Because I guess Toya got into with one of the mates at, I believe that was her girlfriend, mates at the prison, and she was like, "What happened? I haven't heard from her in 24 hours." She was like, "Yeah, I have to be in solitary for 24 hours." So then, at this time, um, Jazz, she eventually like decides to take the Plan B pill. Mind you, it's not been 2 days later. And yeah, so she was like, I told him what it was, and he felt like it was just like, mm. She's like, yeah, I was hoping, like, what was taking so long? So at that same time, Wayne ends up finding out Whitney is pregnant. And now she starts doing all the duties that she was supposed to do to him. So now it's just like, well, dang. So in that same moment, while Jazz is at her job, she ends up meeting another guy named Little Smoke, and he asked for his number, and she was like, "Well, hold on." The guy with the security was like, "Nah, he don't do that." So eventually, she ended up giving Little Smoke her number, and I believe, is at the gym, and she about to leave, and she ends up getting a call, and she ends up seeing him on the way to walk into her car, like advertisement of Wayne. She was like, "Why, Wayne? Why you just can't get your stuff together?" So she ends up answering the phone call, and it was like, maybe Terrence. And she's like, "Terrence, let me see who this is." So she answered, talked about him being a little smoke, and he talked about he wanted to take her out and stuff like that. So she ended up going on these dates with him, having a good time and stuff like that. And yeah, they started hitting it off. She basically like left Wayne in the dust. So it's now what, a few days or so later. He's kind of like possessive. He, she, she wants all the stuff that he's offering her, but from Wayne, because that's all she could think about. So they're hitting it off or whatnot. So it's one day, I think after work, he's there waiting, talking to her again, and he basically telling her like what it is. And next you know, Whitney calls again. Like, it could be all West. She was like, fine, whatever. So he steps out the car, calls or whatever. And then she gets out and runs to her car. And she's like, "Dang, this is what I'm talking about," in her head. And she leaves and goes home. Because at the same time, the girls see him outside the club again. So they were thinking like, so who is this mystery man? But they don't know that it's Wayne Thompson, but whatever. So she starts hitting it off with Terrence or Little Smoke, and they're having a good time. He takes on a few takes her on a few dates or whatever. He ends up getting her this gift, and it's a nice extravagant bracelet. And yeah, it was just like, well, dang, that may be good, but she really wants it from Wayne. So they go on another date. He ends up taking her to his place, and he cooks for her and stuff like that. She was like, "Well, that's good. He's the only guy that can make rice pudding." Because trust me, I'm a black person, and I don't even eat rice pudding, so that's a new thing for that. Um, so yeah, basically Wayne is just still trying to like get in contact with her, and yeah, she's just like living her best life and whatnot. So she continues working like she's doing. Um, it's like the next day or whatever. She ended up calling into this podcast. They're talking to this guy named Gerald, and he basically telling her about how he telling her that her whole situation, she got is messy, she's complicated, and she needed to like just let it go. And that both her and Wayne are dumb and dumber. Like, it's not a complicated situation. You're just making it complicated, because if that's the case, you could have just left this man alone, and that was it. So that was it. Um. So I think later on that night or whatever, um, yeah, after they had Terrence and her had their date, Wayne is still trying to get in contact with her, and she's just like, let him go. So she decided that she wanted to cut the date short, and she decided to text Wayne that she's not pregnant and that's not his baby. I mean, that she's not pregnant, that you could go ahead with Whitney and live your happily ever after. I guess he never saw the message. So by this time, he's at training camp, and he starts talking to his teammate Terrell, and Terrell is telling him, it's like, because Wayne eventually told him about how he feel about Jazz and that he might love her, so he wanted to get his perspective on things, because Terrell does the same thing Wayne does with all these side pieces and whatnot. So he was just like, she told me that she was pregnant, and then Terrell was like, nah, you can't do that, you gotta keep her in her place and let her know what's up. And then he also told her about this one girl that he might have fell in love with, was I think her name was Alex. She was some Spanish girl. And then basically Terrell was telling him, like, no, you can't do that, let it be, put her in her place. And then he was telling Terrell that he loves her, and this is to say, no, that wasn't happening. So after they had a little conversation or whatnot, now this time, Little Smoke and Jazz are back on their way to her house, and they talking or whatnot. So she eventually decides to invite him up, and they get to the house, because her parents are still not home from their vacation. So they start having a moment or whatever, and they end up going into her room. As they was about to start, getting it on, next there's a knock on the door. And then Little Smoke was like, who the F is that? And next it was Wayne. And then you hear Jazz like, oh snap. Well, in other words, oh shit. But that was that. And so we can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens in next week's episode or episodes, because boy, so far so good. Yeah, it's a lot of tea popping off. So yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this recap, and y'all keeping up with this series so far. So far so good. I gotta commend it to Tyler Perry. He know how to draw people in with his stuff. So with that being said, give me a like, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.